Hey everybody, welcome to today's webinar. Today we're covering phone systems. So, hello, in case you didn't know, the phone system is the most important part of legal technology. Okay, let's jump into it then. Phone, the most important piece of legal technology, something you may not have known. So today, I'm going to talk with Maxwell from Ooma about how you can get the most out of your phone system and how to figure out a way to search for a phone system using the appropriate features that you can be looking for. So I'm going to introduce myself quickly. My name is Jared Correia, and I am a technology consultant for law firms. Been doing that for about 12 years, and I've worked with law firms exclusively in that time frame. Talk to law firms about marketing, finance, technology, and I generally get similar questions from law firms across the board. One of the major questions I get from law firms, believe it or not, is phone systems. Like, I have a lot of law firms who are interested in utilizing phone systems, and they don't know where to go. So what we kind of want to do in this webinar is talk about the features you're going to be looking for, the systems you want to be looking at, and just the questions you want to have when you talk to vendors. And I think the person I'm going to be speaking with today, Maxwell, is really qualified to answer those questions. I'm mostly the eye candy here. So again, my name is Jared Correia. I work with Red Cave Law Firm Consulting. And if you want to find out more about me, you can go to my website, which is redcavelegal.com. That's redcavelegal.com. And so let me introduce my co-conspirator here, my partner in crime, who is Maxwell. So I'm going to let Mark introduce himself, and I'll be quiet for a little bit.
Thanks, Jared. As Jared said, I'm Mark Maxwell. I'm with Ooma, Inc., and we are a leading VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol, telephone systems provider. I'm really excited to talk with all of you today, chat with Jared. Jared, if you're the eye candy, then I will live up to my billing, which is, I've been told many, many times that I have a face for radio. So it's probably good that this is just the audio portion of the Mark Maxwell experience today. But very happy to be here with everybody. Hope everybody's staying safe and healthy in these times. And we can discuss not only how phones are the most important piece of legal technology, but in this kind of environment, and frankly, at any time, that a cloud-based VoIP system that's super flexible, super mobile is a great solution. So back to you, Jared.
Absolutely. Like, I think especially now, this is most important. And I talked about this with attorneys a lot, and we'll get into how this works. VoIP is essentially like an internet-based phone system. So you're off of cables, you're off of hardware, and all those advantages that apply to utilizing the internet and cloud-based services in a law firm also apply to using a phone system that's internet-based within a law firm. So we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff today. The one thing I want to mention as well is that we've got slides to go through. We can just talk at you for an hour, but we could also make this a very interactive presentation as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop those into the Q&A for this webinar. So just look, I think it'll probably be at the bottom of your screen. Send us questions. We'll answer them live. Make sure they're good enough, and we'll pick them up. But we want to make this as interactive as possible. I think we're probably better on the fly than reading or reciting slides. So get those questions in. We'll get as many of them answered as possible.
And hey, Jared, let's address Sharon's quick question. Yes, Sharon, this is very live, for better or for worse. So
right.
this is not canned. This is very much live.
I can't believe it. Do we sound canned? I don't feel like we sound canned. Like, this is happening right now.
Yeah, maybe the eye candy and face for radio lines made it seem too pre-rehearsed. Who knows? Okay.
Maybe they were like, who could get away with that kind of thing?
This is very live, so let's get on with the show.
Yeah, this is just natural banter. None of this is scripted at all. All right, so let's start with three of the components that you want to look for when you're choosing a phone system for your law firm. I'll let Mark address most of these, but one thing I will say is, like, as a law firm owner, a law firm manager, one of the challenges is like making sure that you get some level of engagement with potential clients and existing clients. Like, in terms of the potential clients, if you're able to engage a potential client, and that's having somebody answer the phone and have a conversation with them and making it really easy for that to happen, in your law firm environment, your chances of actually converting that client skyrocket. Like studies show that 90% of the time, if you can engage a potential law firm client, they're going to decide whether or not they hire you before they hire anyone else. So that's a big deal when you're talking about law firms and the clients that want to interact with them. The other thing I would say is on the client side, like, believe it or not, most of the ethics complaints I've seen, most of the issues that clients have with lawyers is not about billing too much, right? Not about charging rates that are too high. It's about lawyers not being communicative with their clients. Lawyers tend to be really bad at providing communication portals for clients that they're actually willing to engage on and pick up. And part of the reason for that is because a lot of lawyers have older technology. So most lawyers think about upgrading their technology for communication platforms outside of phone systems, believe it or not. Most lawyers spend a lot of time in email, messaging, but the phone is a really super important part of your technology platform as a law firm. So both with respect to potential clients, with respect to existing clients, making sure you're using the right phone system is a key component. And at least I think Mark agrees with me on that.
Absolutely.
All right, we got a lot of people who are live here. We got a thumbs up already. This is great. Questions are coming in. Thanks, everybody. Keep them coming. All right, so let's talk. What we want to do is talk a little bit about features of phone systems. And I guess one place we could start is, Mark, could we talk maybe a little bit about this concept of VoIP phone systems before we get going here? Like, in terms of coverage areas that we're going to talk about specifically, like, I get a lot of questions from attorneys about VoIP. What does that mean in terms of a phone system? Do you have like a little explainer you could give to people before we get out from under this? Because I think it's a question that's top of mind for most lawyers.
Sure. So a VoIP, great question. So a VoIP phone system is an internet-based phone system. So VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. Actually, let me pause just for a second. Are we not showing slides to folks? Seems like there might be, Tanya just asked a good question. So I'll go back to answering the VoIP stuff, but there should be slides that we're watching as well, or are we still on the first slide?
And hang on a sec, I think people can see slides now, is that right? You can just pop answers into the Q&A. But go ahead, Mark, I'll let you know what people say.
Yeah.
But I think the slides are good now.
Great. So going back to a VoIP system is simply a internet-based phone system. What that means is the phone calls, the dialing, the audio of the call, all of that stuff that used to happen over plain old phone lines and via old phone technology happens literally over the internet in the same way that that email gets sent, that video gets sent, that that other information gets sent over the internet. If you go back, oh gosh, now, at this point now, 20, 25 years ago, the first folks that were sending that figured out that they could send voice and do live voice connections over the internet, frankly, were a bunch of hackers who were trying to stick it to the established phone companies. So they figured out ways to using internet technologies and packet technologies connect, still using the same phone numbers that you would normally use over a regular phone line, and then just send that live stream, create a live connection at both ends, and send the audio in very, very rapid succession as little data packets. So these days, VoIP isn't an outlaw or a cowboy kind of activity. It's actually how most phone systems work. So your cable company, if you have a phone system on a cable network provider, that's actually using VoIP. If you're using and then there's plenty of other independent companies like Ooma who have built phone services systems that simply run across the internet. So I don't know if that's, hopefully that gives, without totally geeking out, getting too nerdy.
I thought that was pretty good.
A quick overview. But essentially it's using existing and traditional phone number technology to establish connections between two or more ends, and then using internet transmission technology to literally take my voice, Jared's voice, or anyone's voice, break it into little packets of data that are audio data, breaking that down into zeros and ones, sending it from me, from my house where I'm sheltering in place, out to the rest of us, and then decoding that and breaking it, reassembling it from zeros and ones into a voice a human voice at the other end, and that's a VoIP phone system. We can all access this technology. It's now mature technology, really easy to use, and where it becomes really interesting is the other things you can do with a cloud-based VoIP system, where you can get features and routing and other things that you used to, have to have massive on-site infrastructure, really big, expensive hardware investments, and things that were simply prohibited for a small, 20, 10, or even 2 or 3 person business. And that's what's really cool about the Ooma system, is that we are built from literally the ground up. We started in the residential space, and we've moved on to the SMB market. We really cater to small, or what I even refer to as micro or nano businesses, and offer great voice quality over VoIP, and add and expose some pretty neat features that historically have been either cost prohibitive or reserved only for really big organizations.
Right, perfect segue. And the other thing I would say explicitly is, like, one of the big advantages of using a VoIP phone system is that system is now operating over the internet as well. That means it has interoperability with the other tools you use in your law practice. So that could be a productivity system, that could be a case management system, that could be an accounting system. Anything that also operates online can now be intimately connected to your phone system, integrated with your phone system, whereas that doesn't exist when you have a cable-based phone system. But fortunately, most people are moving over to VoIP. All right, you can see the list of things we're going to cover today. All of these things are fundamentally important for law firms. And now we're going to jump into that, but we do have a question off the top, Mark, if you're ready. One question from Michael. Michael asks, when using a mobile phone or a phone in my house, can I have my business number show up in the recipient's caller ID? And I'm sure that's a question you get a lot.
That's an awesome question, and thanks for asking it. Using the Ooma Office mobile app on your smartphone, you literally can divide your phone into both your personal number, and that also applies for texting, as well as keeping your business line separate. When you make calls, an outbound call through our app, even if it's on your personal smartphone, the recipient sees the caller ID of your business number. Same with text. I fondly tell the story of a year and a half ago. I was working with a plumber. He was texting me. We were trying to diagnose something. Something's gone on in shower in our bathroom. It was something at our home. I was texting him pictures. He was texting me back answers. And he was using his personal cell phone for both business and personal life. And after 4 or 5 exchanges, the next text I got from him, there was a couple texts of, well, can you, turn it there, give me a picture here. I'm trying to see where the leak is. Then the next text from him said, I'll pick you up at 6 o'clock, sweetie. I was like, okay, great. A long-winded answer to the question that was asked, but if he had the Ooma Office platform and specifically our mobile app, he could have been texting me from his work number and texting whoever Sweetie is or was from his personal number. So this will show my age a little bit. I don't know if people remember the old McDonald's McDLT burger from years ago, but their big ad
yeah.
slogan and with their packaging, you know,
Remember
it came
well.
with lettuce and tomato. Their packaging moniker was it divided and kept the hot side hot and the cold side cold. I like to say that the Ooma Office app keeps the your personal side personal and your business side very, very professional, and separates the two. Yet it's running all on the same device, so you're not walking around with two cell phones. Earlier in my career, I remember, fondly or actually less fondly, having a BlackBerry in one pocket and my personal cell phone in the other. So yes, long-winded answer to the question. Great question. Yes, using the mobile app, you not only are able to receive calls on your business number, you can send calls as well as text messages using your business number, and it appears, the caller ID at the other end appears as that business number.
And let's hope there was a Sweetie. Like, you might have actually been Sweetie. And we're talking about a whole other situation.
Who knows?
So,
we were able to fix the leak, and he didn't come by to pick me up at 6, so I don't think I was Sweetie that day.
So one more question before we get into the slides. So we've got a question about VoIP, which we just talked about that, so let's address it now. Sharon asks, does that mean that you need Wi-Fi access, or can you use a cellular contract? She says she's a novice, so excuse the jargon. At the office, they have a hardwired and wireless internet, but at home, she often loses the internet connection with spotty cell service. So do you think VoIP would be a good option for somebody with that scenario?
So VoIP, the I portion of VoIP does mean internet. So you do need an internet connection. It can be Wi-Fi, it can be a wired line. We don't care how you get on the internet. For the system, you do need to be on the internet. However, the mobile app that I mentioned, where you can place and receive calls, you can do in cellular mode on your phone. So on your mobile phone or your cellular phone. So it's you would set up and run. So at the office, you're running. You're obviously on the internet, have internet access there. So anything, any of the account management stuff, you would probably want to do. You would need to do connected to the internet, but the mobile app allows you that flexibility and freedom that you can place and receive calls as well as text. Even if you don't have a good internet signal, if you've got a good cellular signal, that'll suffice. Right.
Awesome. So keep those questions coming in. We're happy to answer those.
Great questions.
Mark, let's talk a little bit about questions. Yeah, we got some good questions coming in so far. So let's talk about call routing capabilities, right? Can you speak a little bit about how that works in a good phone system, right? So we're talking potentially to virtual receptionists, the use of a mobile and desktop app, and soft phones, which is what you had discussed a little bit previously. And then this notion of call flipping. Like, I don't know if a lot of folks have heard about that, but it's a really cool feature.
Sure. So, again, I mentioned it earlier, but the great thing about a cloud-based VoIP system is it gives you all kinds of flexibility that you wouldn't necessarily have, that a smaller business wouldn't necessarily have. So let's start with a virtual receptionist. I'm doing this thinking of an inbound call. So you can set up an Ooma virtual receptionist with a greeting that you either record or you literally can type in. We've got text-to-speech translation technology available that, as the name suggests, it's a virtual receptionist. So it's a receptionist that, essentially a computer is answering your phone for you, saying, this is the law offices of Mark and Jared. Press 1 to speak to Jared.
That would be an amazing law firm.
Press 1 for eye candy. Press 2 for a voice for radio, or a face for radio. Sorry. Press 3 to get the weather. Press 4 to reach accounting. So you can use the virtual receptionist to literally answer and route your calls accordingly. It's super easy to set up. You can also set up for different schedules. So you could set up business hours that it would answer it with one response during business hours, another response on evenings and weekends, and you can vary that schedule literally hour by hour. So if if your business takes, if the team goes out for a 2-hour lunch on Wednesdays, not a problem. You can coordinate the virtual receptionist to answer accordingly. Beyond that, I kind of mentioned press 4 for accounting, press 5 for sales. I could still be a 1 or 2 person company, but appear much larger by using these other other call routing features. You could set up something called a ring group. So if Mark and Jared each had their own clients, but we had a hotline for somebody for a new customer, press 4 if you're not an existing client, and that could ring to both of us. Something that's called a ring group. So that's and businesses use that again to identify a department that may or may not actually be a fully staffed department. It's you could push 4 for new clients and 5 for accounting, and it might still just ring to me and Jared, but it gives the aura and the appearance of a much larger organization. It also helps us to know, as the person receiving the call, what type of call is coming in. So if somebody presses 4 for a new customer, or a new potential client, when that call rings to Mark and Jared, they could each see that, oh, this was coming in through push button 4. That's new clients. So we might answer the phone differently than we would, if they come in to speak to our accounting department. So let's talk a little bit beyond that. Within each individual phone number on your Ooma account, you can set up a variety of call handling capabilities. You can go with the easy default that if you don't answer the phone, it goes to voicemail. You can set up other things. Like I could set it up that if I didn't answer my phone after 8 rings, that it actually rings to Jared or to a live human receptionist or a paralegal or somebody else on the team. And you could literally set up a call flow that way that, that if I don't take my call, but I do want it to be answered by a human, I don't want it to go to voicemail, try somebody else in the office. And there's literally a myriad of different call handling routing things you could do there. Let me address what Jared mentioned, something called call flip. Call flip is a super handy feature for people who are on the go. What call flip allows you to do is literally flip your call from one device to another. So if I'm sitting at my desk, and I'm on a call on my desk phone, and I realize, as again, real world examples that happened to Mark, or have happened to Mark, I realize, as I often do, that oh crap,
You're bringing the heat with your stories today. I'm impressed.
Yes, I've lost track of time. It's now 5:45, and I was supposed to have picked up my kids at school 10 minutes ago, but I'm on this really important call that I don't want to say, hey, I've got to run out. Can I call you back from my cell phone in 2 minutes? I literally can flip using a star code. Star, you press star and then the numbers. I can literally move or flip that call from one phone to another. I can move it from my desk phone to the app on my mobile phone, pick it up on my mobile phone, hang up my desk phone. The person at the other end literally has no idea that I've just changed devices, and most importantly, that call is totally uninterrupted. I didn't have to say, that slightly embarrassing of, hey, can I call you back in, 90 seconds from my cell phone. It literally seamlessly moved from one device to another, and I can do it the other way as well. So if I'm on a call in the morning as I'm driving into the office, get to the office, and want to switch to my desk phone, I can call flip from my mobile app into any of my other phones as well. So, I'm just scratching the surface in terms of some of the literal physical flexibility with call handling and call routing. I did see a note from Sharon about a ring group. So great question, Sharon. You can actually set up a ring group to ring phones sequentially or simultaneously. So I could set up that accounting ring group, if say there's 3 people in our firm, or that new client ring group. There's 3 of us in our firm. I could set it up so it rings all 3 of us simultaneously, or I could set it up that it rings Sharon first. If she's not available, it then rings Jared, and God forbid if Jared and Sharon are not available, then it would ring Mark, and this new client would have to talk to Mark, and who knows if we all know how that will probably end. So hopefully Sharon or Jared will pick up when it rings to them. But so Sharon, we could have it ring to all of us at the same time, or we could literally set up the sequential order of how we wanted the call to proceed. And that's that's kind of a cool feature. You can also do essentially the equivalent with call handling. So Sharon, you could set up your phone that remember I said if you don't want it to go to voicemail. So after 6 or 7 rings, you could have your calls go to Jared, and Jared may have his set up that if after 6 or 7 rings, they go to Mark. You could also have it that if it was set up that you wanted to try Jared, but frankly you're not comfortable with your calls going on to Mark. So if Jared doesn't pick up, then they could actually go back to your voicemail. So again, ton of really sophisticated stuff that historically either just wasn't available or was available only to super heavy duty, really expensive systems. These kind of features are available to an Ooma account of one phone number, 1 customer, up to any of our accounts with thousands of customers.
Yeah,
so sorry if I took a little long while to answer that. Yeah,
that was good. You got to stitch the personal stories in. I know how it goes. Call flipping is like my favorite thing. Like this idea of having soft phones available.
It's saved me a few times. Call flip has saved me more than one time.
Well, I think the thing for me too is having this ability to use what people call soft phones. It's I don't have to be on my physical phone all the time. I can switch a call to my computer if I want, which is amazing because maybe I'm coming in, I'm sitting here, and I'm back at my desk, and I don't want to lose that call, and I want to make sure I keep the time running for billing purposes. You can do all that super easily. Okay, so Sharon's got another question, which I think is a good one. So
yeah, Sharon's on a roll. So I see that. So if
she's on a
the
tear.
ring group rang to all 3,
right?
So one way you would know that somebody picked it up, somebody other than Sharon. If you're sitting in your office, the phone's ringing to all 3. You see that it's you can see on the display that it's coming in from the new client, and you didn't answer it, but all of a sudden it's not ringing. There is a mechanism by which you could see who actually picked it up, and that's a feature that we refer to as extension monitoring, where you can see one another's lines to see if you're live, if your line is available or not. It's typically something that is used for receptionists to monitor either an entire office, or if they support a few senior execs. But you certainly could set that up to monitor one another's phones as well. And that the way that would work is you would literally have just an indicator light on one of the other lines on your phone that would illuminate. It's a little bit trickier to do on the mobile app in terms of monitoring others. That today isn't available on the mobile app. So hopefully that's answered your question, Sharon. You would not only obviously know that the call was no longer ringing if it wasn't ringing your phone anymore, but you could also, through some other mechanisms, see whose line it likely was on.
Yeah, and Sharon says she appreciates
the
detailed answers.
And just for everybody else out there, Sharon is not a plant. I don't know.
Sharon's actually my mom.
Some spectacular questions. Okay, gotcha. Got it. Okay.
No, Sharon's actually got great questions. I do not know her. All right, so we promised we'll get through the rest of the slides. Yeah, hey, no problem. We'll promise we'll get through the rest of the slides a little bit quicker here. We got a half an hour left, right? So can we talk voicemail, Mark? Voicemail, a subject of much frustration for many lawyers who probably don't have visual voicemail. So can you talk a little bit about voicemail and email attachments, voicemail transcriptions, and then like how to manage your settings effectively?
Yep. So I think at this point, everybody's probably pretty comfortable with voicemail as a concept. What we were less comfortable with, as you indicated, was simply managing voicemail. With Ooma Office, every time you receive a voicemail, you also receive an email telling you that you've gotten a voicemail, and that email has an audio file attached to it of the voicemail. So you can literally review your voicemail through email. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, this is replacing one problem with another problem, that I've got too much voicemail and I get even more email, so the last thing I want is another email, not a problem. You can turn that feature off. But it is a nice way for people to manage their voicemail, for busy execs to manage their voicemail by getting that email. In our Office, Ooma Office Pro product, which is a higher service tier that's simply $5 per user per month more than our regular product, we also include something called voicemail transcriptions. Depending on who your mobile phone carrier, your cellular carrier is, you may have experienced this previously, but a voicemail transcription is simply a text version of the voicemail. That feature is incredibly useful for being able to quickly visually scan to see if this is a voicemail from that needs attention or not. Is it a telemarketer? Is it my kid? Is it a client or opposing counsel that and it can be a great feature to help you prioritize and get back and forth, know which voicemails really need attention sooner than later. The traditional voicemail light on your phone with you've got 7 new messages doesn't give you that additional insight to help you prioritize and manage which ones really need to be responded to in a timely manner. So that feature is called voicemail transcription. It's I think a cool feature. We actually get it provided by a third-party service that is incredibly accurate. They have multilingual support. It's a small little company called Google that provides that to us. So far my interactions with them is this Google company. They're small startup up the road from us. We're neighbors, but they seem to have their stuff together, and I think they're going to be around for a little while. So they're doing a pretty good job on the voicemail transcription front for us. We're happy with them.
I've heard of Google before. You should tell us more about this.
Great.
Now, I will say that
I wasn't sure
visual voicemail is like visual voicemail is like a lifesaver. Like if you,
it literally can save you so much time.
I hate it.
Yeah, when you get that, when the light is on when you go through the traditional model of, the red light is on your phone, you've got a message waiting, and you listen to it and it says, you have 7 new messages. I always just cringe when I hear that. Whereas with the visual voicemail, that comes over an email, and granted, I get a lot of emails, so there is that slight downside, but the voicemail transcription, the text, it allows you to quickly scan and figure out what stuff do you actually have to listen to or not. What stuff is critical right now? What stuff can I leave for an hour or two? What stuff can I simply delete on the fly? So
it's
great
amazing.
Thanks for asking about that.
Yeah, and so Sharon is very much winning today's webinar. She says she's not my mom. She's just hungry for answers. I like that. We got a question from Leonard who says, what is the capacity of voicemail, and how do you clear it once you've heard the messages?
Yeah, so the second part, Leonard, you can simply delete it. You delete it from, you can delete it via voicemail, you can delete it via the audio capacity. If you can mark things to save. It's cloud-based, so we have pretty extensive storage. It's I don't want to say unlimited because somebody will always test that theory.
Don't say that.
Yeah, but there's you literally can leave months worth of voicemails. You also have the ability for truly critical voicemail messages, and we'll see this with call recordings as well. You can download and store those locally. So if, particularly from a legal perspective, if you've got a great settlement offer from opposing counsel that was left in voicemail, I don't know that that's how legal professionals typically do that, but let's just say it happened. You not only could save that, you could download that and store that locally as well. So Leonard, hopefully.
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit about call recording? I know we spent a lot of time on the visual voicemail part, but what about the audio recordings and then also call blocking, which is, I think, a really useful feature. And I know you guys offer an enhanced version of that.
Yep. So it's interesting because call recording, I think, deals with calls you really, really want, and call blocking deals with calls you really don't want. So let me talk to call recording first. Call recording, again, is a feature in our Ooma Office Pro service tier that literally allows you to record calls that are on your system. You can set it up at the account level where you're recording all calls coming into or placed from your account. You can set it up to record all calls on just certain numbers, or you can easily invoke call recording on a call-by-call basis, where you literally enter a star code to begin and end the call recording. Hanging up is another way to end the recording. As with voicemails, we store the call recording in the cloud, and you can download that and store it locally as well for your own use. We do. For the call recordings, we do clear those out after 90 days. So that's something that that you do want to monitor if you're recording the calls and they are mission critical to a case or to a discovery or whatever. You probably want to save a backup locally just to be safe. In
some cases, yeah. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Oh yeah. No, go ahead. I was switching gears already.
No, I think in some cases as well, you want to be clear on what your state rules are on call recordings as well. State laws I'm talking about. Some states are two-party states. Some states are single-party states. In some cases, you do need another's permission to record a phone call, and in some states you don't. Correct. And like the old court cases from the early mid-90s, where are you a telephone or a newspaper? We provide the technology and the capability, but we don't actually enforce any jurisdiction. So please be aware of what your local rules are and behave accordingly. Lawyers are good at knowing the law stuff. All right, let's move to this enhanced call blocking idea.
Yeah. So we offer, within Ooma Office, we offer a couple of levels of call blocking. And then with the Ooma Office Pro product, as I've mentioned previously, we offer a third tier of call blocking. So the call blocking functionalities that we have available to us are, one, an account level black or block list. So you can enter a number that our system will know to not receive calls from that number. So you've got a client that things didn't work out with, and they become harassing or a pain in the butt. You can literally block their number, mother-in-law, ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, for whatever reason, or if there is a telemarketer that you are explicitly aware of, you can add any of those numbers easily to a block list. You can manually type them in, or once you have received them, you can go to your call log, simply block the call or block that number for future reference from your call log. Second level of protection from unwanted calls is you can enable something called anonymous call blocking. So what that technology does, or what that feature does, is any call that is inbound to you or to your account, to your number, that doesn't include caller ID information gets blocked. So low-level telemarketers, spammers, etc., who don't have caller ID information, you'll block those unwanted calls. Trickier part is the more sophisticated robo-dialers and spammers who actually do have caller ID, who flip and bounce their caller ID around, and it makes it look oftentimes like a local number, a real number. They're certainly not dialing as Spam Dialer Inc. They're dialing as a person's name from a cell phone that might be, or a phone number that appears that it would be a local phone number to you. That's where the enhanced call blocking comes into play. We leverage a community of technology and participants that continually update a known list of spam dialers, robo dialers, etc. That list updates on a literally daily basis, and so you can leverage that to block the more sophisticated and known telemarketers, robo dialers, spam dialers, unwanted callers. So again, Ooma Office Standard offers 2 levels of protection. The Office Pro product offers that third enhanced level of protection that blocks known robo-dialers with caller ID, and that is that database is shared through a variety of telephone industry providers, and we collectively update that on a daily and weekly basis.
Right, and that's a big problem for lawyers who get tons and tons of spam calls and waste a lot of time on those calls, actually. So just in terms of the time you save on calls like that, that'll pay for your phone service subscription 20 times over, probably.
Now, the interesting thing about all of our, with the exception of the personal block list that you've already determined, with the anonymous call blocking or the robo-dialer call blocking, you can set those calls up that they don't ring, but they go straight to voicemail. Then you could review your visual voicemail just in case you get a false positive. That's a way to not take those calls in real time, but still, just make sure that if you're concerned about potentially missing an important call, that's one way you can set it up so that you don't get interrupted in real time, but still have access to whatever the content was. It can make that decision, later in the day, end of the week, whatever.
Trust the machine, but people are very much worried about FOMO still. So I just had a slide up here briefly, which I wanted to show some people about how easy it is to create a ring group. I think largely we've already discussed that, though. So why don't we talk about another issue, which I think is interesting for probably some of the law firms on the call. Like, there are a number of small law firms out there, but if you've got like 4, 5, 10 people in an office, now managing communications becomes a lot more difficult. So how can you manage communications in terms of phones with a large staff?
Okay, so I mentioned that previously. There's a variety of different mechanisms we have available through Ooma Office. The easiest is that everybody has their own direct inbound dialing phone number, as well as internal extensions. So you can dial by extension internally. You can, to the outside world, they're still dialing that 7 or 10-digit number. What we also offer for the large organizations who might have the professional staff to do this, I mentioned it earlier, we've got things like extension monitoring that allow you to monitor who else, you could have a receptionist who can monitor all of the other lawyers in the office and know whose lines are available, whose aren't. You can use ring groups, as we discussed previously, to create and manage calling groups. And then we've got a variety of call handling options that can happen at both the individual extension level or user level, as well as at the account level.
And does anyone use overhead paging in a law firm? Like, I feel like that would be delightful, paging this partner or whomever. Maybe one of these days.
Possibly. The overhead paging is more for environments that clean up in aisle 3 kind of stuff, or in a larger factory, but or in a warehouse setting. But the technology is there, so if you wanted to do overhead paging in a law firm, you absolutely could with the Ooma system.
Not that you'd want to. All right, let's move to our slide 14 and talk a little bit about desktop and mobile apps. I know you've addressed this a little bit here, and we talked a little bit about this in terms of like using VoIP and interoperability, but some of the things like SMS features we haven't yet talked about, eFaxes. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to drill down on that a little bit.
Sure. So again, this goes back to the original definition of VoIP, that it's taking data, breaking it into ones and zeros, and then sending it out over the internet. So that approach applies not only to voice, but also to text messages, to SMS messages, to fax capabilities, et cetera. So while some businesses, some industries don't use fax as much anymore, in the legal profession, you still oftentimes need signature on paper, or at least on an image of paper. So with each extension at Ooma, we include virtual fax capabilities. So each person can get their own fax line, their own fax number that works as literally a virtual or electronic fax. If you needed to print, you could. You can send faxes from the Ooma Office system. You literally can scan or take a picture of and upload documents. So if you've got, say you've got a standard contract that you use repeatedly that you fax out to somebody, you literally could upload the PDF or Word file or whatever format of your choice into the Ooma system, and then just have that ready as a fax template that you can send out regularly. In terms of SMS text capabilities, the mobile app supports full text capabilities. We are hours away from enabling photo capabilities, so MMS capabilities through the mobile app as well. And then our soft phone desktop app, so just to clarify what I mean by those two, mobile app is the application that runs on your smartphone. Desktop app is actually a client, an executable file that runs on your laptop, if you will, or your desktop computer, your PC or Mac, that allows you to dial and place and receive calls right on your computer. So it's taking that VoIP concept to the next level, where you're now not even dealing with a physical phone, whether it's your mobile phone or a phone on your desk, where you're literally placing, receiving, doing all of your telephony activities through an application on your computer. So I think everybody, if you weren't familiar with it 2 months ago, I think everybody today knows the concept of Zoom, which is more video conferencing centric. The Ooma soft phone app today is voice only, but we actually are rapidly working on adding video capabilities to that as well.
Excellent. And
did that sort of address that?
Yeah, I thought that was really good. Now we're on to our next slide, which is 15 for us. It's almost staggering to me what you can do with a phone system now. Thinking about technology and where it was in law firms even 5-10 years ago, this stuff was unachievable then for the most part. And now, not only is this technology available, but the cost of technology has come down so much. But the number of features you can list just on this feature page with your Office Pro system is just staggering. Is there anything you wanted to address here before we move to the last 10 minutes or so of the presentation that you haven't talked about yet, you think people should know about?
I was going to say, I think we've hinted on or discussed several of these, call recording, some of the call blocking capabilities, the various desktop and mobile phone apps. We've covered a lot of that. I think the important thing to think about is while this feature list may come across as staggering, it's super easy to use and to manage all of this, and I'm sort of answering Sharon's next question. We have a very easy to use website and portal that you log into that all of these configurations, all of these settings that we've done are controlled there. The UI is, I think, very, very simple. It's been our goal to take complex technology, and our back end is quite complicated and sophisticated, but to present that in a UI that makes sense to an individual that may not have a big technology background. So I think we've got a super easy to use UI. We absolutely have a ton of help, FAQ, and knowledge base files and resources. But perhaps most importantly, we have a super friendly customer support team that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's mostly staffed right here in the United States. For some after hours, evenings, and weekends, we do have overseas personnel who are employees of our company, who are fully fluent, native English speakers, but are, for their own personal reasons, are living overseas. But the most important thing is that is 24/7 support that is available free of charge. Let me go through. I see we've got a couple of other good questions coming in. So let me just, if you don't mind, let me
making this too easy on me, Mark. Go ahead.
Yep.
Let's talk about conference bridges.
Yep. A couple of people have asked what a conference bridge is. A conference bridge is a conference number. So I mentioned that each user gets their own virtual fax line or phone number. You also, with the Ooma Office system, get a conference line. So back to the law offices of Sharon, Jared, and Mark. Sharon gets her own. She has her own phone number that her clients can call her directly into. Mark and Jared each have their own, but they also, all three of them each have their own dedicated fax number, as well as their own dedicated conference room number. So, it goes back to, Mark has his own conference room number, Jared has his own conference room number, or conference bridge, and then Sharon would as well. Within a conference bridge, you can have multiple breakout or conference rooms, but the conference bridge is basically your own dedicated conference phone number. In terms of Call Park, actually, we may not have used that. I don't think we addressed that. So Call Park, I like to think of Call Park as call holds or call hold on steroids. What Call Park allows you to do is you have dedicated, quote unquote, parking spots. So when a call, actually, sorry, let me back up for a second. When a call is on hold, it's still occupying a live line. So, Sharon, somebody may call Sharon's number, and Sharon may say, hey, let me put you on hold and see if I can find Jared. Her phone number is still occupied. And so if another number came in, the system would think that her line was busy, thus that second call would be routed to voicemail or whatever call handling she had set up. With Call Park, you actually are able to move a call off of your live line, keep it as a connected call, but place it elsewhere. So if you think of parking cars in parking spots, we're doing the same thing with phone calls here. I don't know that it's that critical for, and then it's super easy for somebody else to pick up. So, Sharon, if Sharon didn't want to put a call on hold, keep it on her line, she could move a call off to a parking spot, put it in parking spot 1. Her line is now free. She could tell Mark and Jared, hey, I just parked a call. There's a call parked in line 1 or in parking spot 1. Can either of you two pick it up? Our lines were still free. We were still able to make in and outbound calls, but we were using one of these parking spots to handle a live call that we'd received. Again, I don't know that this feature is that interesting for law firms. Where we see it being, frankly, really interesting is restaurants. You know, pizzerias that on the Super Bowl. That's a great place where they, you know, they're not filling up their live lines that they might put somebody on hold. They're able to literally move them, keep the live line on so that they can get more inbound calls, park the calls, and then pick them up and handle them accordingly. Again, call park is more of a feature for organizations that have heavy inbound calling. But it's a great question. I apologize that I didn't stress it earlier. I just don't think of it as a feature that law offices or that professional offices in general. You know, I don't know that a doctor's office, maybe doctor's office would use it more. But you have it. It's part of Ooma Office. So don't let my biases keep you from using Call Park.
And I think we have
the
another
account.
question here.
Yep. So the account actually gets X number of parking spots that are shared amongst the office. So to Sharon's question, it's not each designated line or user like with virtual fax or the conference bridge. It's a shared pool of parking spots for the entire account. And then
park the car, as they say out here in Boston. I can't even do it anymore. I can't even
park
fake a Boston accent anymore. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we've got about a few minutes here. So I would tell folks, like, if you've got questions, now would be the time. Ask them or forever hold your peace. And as you can see, I've got some commentary up here about why Ooma works so well in the legal profession. Mark, did you want to speak to that briefly before we answer the last set of questions?
Let me actually answer the last two questions, and then we'll go to why it works so well for the legal profession. Hopefully, we don't run out of time. So you don't actually transfer a call. Okay, you don't transfer a call from a parking spot to another user. You park the call in the parking spot, then you tell the other user where it is, and they're able to pick it up. In the same way that that if you think about parking a car, I park the car in spot number 3. The other person goes out and grabs it from 3. In terms of transition from a traditional landline system with 5 hunting lines. So a hunting line, we refer to a hunting line as a ring group. So you can set up multiple ring groups that do the hunting for you. So I'm not sure if I'm answering that question completely or not.
I think we're good enough. With 2 minutes left, I would say that's good enough.
Okay, great. So Jared, let me give it back to you for the wrap-up. Maybe we can speak pricing really quickly as well.
Yeah, what I just want to say is, thanks for attending today. We get a number of questions that we are probably not going to be able to get to today. So guess what? Give Ooma a call. Appropriately enough, selling phone systems, might as well have a number for you to call and reach out. So 888-711-6662 is the number to call. Ask your questions there.
And I was going to say, these questions are so great. I can't help myself. I've got to jump in and try to answer these last two. We can port.
Go for it.
It's called porting an existing phone number. Very simple process. Takes can take up to 2 or 3 weeks. We work with your existing carrier to bring that over, and every attorney if in terms of masking lines to look like it's coming from the central caller ID, yes. So every attorney could have their own number, but all of the outbound calls could be coming from the main number of that firm. So hopefully those two help. I don't know if we're able to go into stoppage time, as they say, or this may just shut off in a second. But
yeah, we should do do pricing now, because I think we're going to get closed down. But yeah, thanks everybody.
Pricing,
go ahead, Mark, do your thing.
$19.95 per user for the Ooma Standard service. The Ooma Office service is $5 per user more at $24.95. With that, you get everything that we've discussed today. It's an incredibly robust system. The porting is free of charge to bring in your existing numbers, and our customer service is available 24/7. That's free as well.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody at Ooma, and thanks all of you for attending today. Again, if you have questions, give the folks at Ooma a call. They'll answer those as well. Mark really knows his stuff. Everybody over there does. So once again, thanks for attending.
Thanks, everybody.
You have a good rest of the day.
And Sharon, you get the MVP award.